His love is a cup of darkness and malice. He's toxic. Now I'm ready to let go of him and accept his death. It took you this long to understand that he's toxic. It's unfair actually that I'm recording this now because I finished it 2 days ago. Throughout the day, there were multiple times that I wanted to stop and record how I was feeling and what I was thinking, but I realized that when the day and sunshine are gone, the video quality becomes crap. So here we are. One of my favorite scenes was the scene when Genya and the king had to confront. Like, when I reached that scene, I remembered how this book had even came to be a part of my TBR. Like, months ago, I was like browsing through my Instagram and this artwork popped up, and it was that exact scene when she said, "I'm not ruined, I'm ruination." It was so badass. Like, that scene, I think, was the best female empowerment scene in the whole trilogy. Also, I was very proud of our Nikolai for confronting his father for what he had done, as he would have any other stranger. Even though his father was a king, a monarchy, who really could do anything with anyone and get away with it. But he confronted him and made him pay. It just showed what a merciful, good king he would be. And maybe the King of Scars and Brutal Worlds would be worth reading. I don't know about that. We'll get to that later. It just made him so much more dear to me. Until he told Genya once the war is over, she would be judged by him. And I was like, I think the king actually really deserved everything that had happened to him. Like, in my opinion, like, he should have died.
I mean, in my childish opinion.
This is supposed to be a merciless word, right? The thing Nikolai said was actually very understandable, but I wish that our son Samona had stepped up. I mean, she was their only hope. She was so influential, and I think I would have liked it if she had showed more backbone. Like, I mean, it was her character's choice, but I just wished she would have been more cheeky and badass. At that specific moment, at least. Mercifully, the chemistry between Alina and Mal existed in this book. I mean, it was acceptable, though it didn't make my toes curl or gave me butterflies. I just wish that this kind of dynamic had existed in the second book. Like, in the second book, they kind of felt like two normal friends, and I just couldn't feel anything out of the so-called relationship between them. I just feel like some of these bits and pieces were there as well. So, like, you could accept that, yay, this is a kind of love triangle. It was nothing like that. Like, I just couldn't see anything happening between them. At the beginning of this novel, I was very satisfied with the kind of role that he had accepted himself, because honestly, I just hadn't been able to see any kind of chemistry between them, but it started growing and it was acceptable, but nothing I would want to reread to recreate in my mind. This book as well was very action-packed, and those parts when the main characters were confronting each other were the most interesting ones. Of course, the rest where they were fleeing or like trying to find the third Morozova's amplifiers. Those parts I just had to fight to keep my concentration on the storyline. And I happened to just scan some paragraphs for the main information and just move on. But the confrontation that happened between our two sides were just delicious. And of course, our villain stayed a complete human, not a black or white one. And I just love that very much in this whole trilogy. Like, that was the biggest point of this trilogy. A respectful villain, a really perfectly crafted one. And I've talked about this so much, and I can go on for a long time, but the series will be aired in less than 7 days, and we'll have a talk about that as well. But honestly, I had reached this point where I was like,
I don't know how this is going to end in this last 100 pages, but I think I am not going to forgive the author for whatever is going to happen.
that was not the case. Like, it was solved in a very smart way. Like, I just couldn't believe that all that had happened could have the closure and conclusion just like that. But I was satisfied with the kind of ending. It wasn't a favorite. As I said, I really don't think I would want to binge read this series again, at least not the trilogy. But it was very acceptable and relatable. And I am grateful for the fact that it wasn't ruined, because like the end, like the whole thing could be a masterpiece, but if the ending sucks, the whole thing is going to seem like that. And that wasn't the case. Thank you, Lee Bardugo. To sum it up, do I recommend reading this series to you? It was well crafted, the world building, everything was tangible, the characters were relatable, and all of that. The villain was very respectable. But I've seen this kind of dynamic a lot, and among all those other stories, just didn't really stand up. Maybe a decade before, when this was first published, it had been a hit and very great, but right now I can name tons of other stories like similar, with people having special powers. Like, Red Queen series was more attractive to me. Like, if I was forced to choose between rereading this series and Red Queen, I would go for Red Queen. Though I had some issues with the main villain, but still the pacing of that one was really good. Like, I don't remember losing concentration while reading that. And I'm not hyperactive, I promise you. I would say that Shadow and Bone is a fine trilogy, but you wouldn't lose much if you don't read it. But I would like to know, what has been your favorite story? It could be a book, a movie, or a series that the characters own superpowers. Do tell in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. If you would like to hang out even more, please subscribe and ring the bell next to it so you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching until now. I'm Shahrzad, and you were watching an episode on Shahrzad Stories channel. See ya!